Marcus Aurelius's Meditations, The Emperor's Path to Inner Peace. Hook and intro. Have you ever found yourself overwhelmed by the chaos of the world, burdened by responsibilities, or simply struggling to find a sense of peace amidst life's relentless demands? What if the answers to these universal human dilemmas were penned by an emperor, not from a throne, but from the muddy tents of a battlefield amidst war and plague? This is not a grand epic of military conquests or political intrigue, but a story of a different kind, an intensely personal journey into the mind of one of history's most powerful rulers, Marcus Aurelius. Today we delve into Meditations, a book unlike any other. It is not a conventional narrative with a plot, characters, or a dramatic arc in the way a novel might be. Instead, it is a collection of private philosophical reflections, spiritual exercises, and self-admonitions that Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself. Think of it as his personal operating manual for navigating the most challenging aspects of human existence. He wasn't writing for us, he was writing for himself to strengthen his own resolve, remind himself of his Stoic principles, and find inner tranquility in a world constantly on the brink of collapse. The plot of Meditations, if we can call it that, is an internal one, the ongoing, lifelong struggle of an individual, an emperor no less, to achieve self-mastery, cultivate virtue, and maintain his rationality in the face of immense external pressures. It is the story of a mind striving for harmony with the universe, a soul seeking freedom from disturbance, and a leader endeavoring to live justly and wisely. This is a journey not across geographical landscapes, but across the intricate terrain of the human psyche. In a world increasingly characterized by anxiety, division, and the relentless pursuit of external validation, the wisdom contained within Meditations offers a profound and practical antidote. Marcus Aurelius's insights into controlling our judgments, accepting what we cannot change, and finding purpose in duty are more relevant than ever. This video will unravel the core themes and principles that guided this extraordinary man, showing you how his ancient wisdom can illuminate your own path to resilience, inner peace, and a life lived with integrity. Stay with us as we unlock the secrets of an emperor's soul. By understanding his internal journey, his philosophical plot, you will gain not just knowledge of an ancient text, but practical tools for shaping your own perceptions, managing your reactions, and finding calm amidst your personal storms. This isn't just history. It's a blueprint for enduring strength in any era. Context and background. To truly appreciate the profound nature of Marcus Aurelius's Meditations, we must first understand the man himself and the tumultuous world in which he lived. Marcus Aurelius, born in 121 AD, was destined for greatness. Adopted by Emperor Antoninus Pius, he was meticulously educated in rhetoric, law, and most importantly, philosophy. His teachers included prominent Stoics like Junius Rusticus and Apollonius, who steeped him in the principles of this ancient Greek school of thought. He ascended to the imperial throne in 161 AD, becoming one of Rome's 5 good emperors, a period often regarded as the height of the Roman Empire. However, Marcus Aurelius's reign was far from a golden age of peace. It was a period defined by constant external threats and internal crises. Rome faced relentless warfare on its frontiers, particularly against Germanic tribes along the Danube River and the powerful Parthian Empire in the east. These weren't distant conflicts. Aurelius spent much of his reign personally leading military campaigns, living in austere conditions far from the luxuries of Rome. Adding to the external pressures was a devastating internal catastrophe. The Antonine Plague, which swept across the empire from 165 AD, killing millions and severely weakening Rome's military and economy. This plague was so severe that some historians believe it may have been an early form of smallpox or measles, causing widespread terror and suffering. Marcus Aurelius himself lost many family members and friends to the disease. It was against this backdrop of incessant warfare, rampant disease, and the immense weight of imperial responsibility that Meditations was written. This was not a book he intended for public consumption. It was his personal journal, a series of notes and reflections he scribbled down, likely during brief respites from battle in the solitude of his tent on the frontier. The original title was To Himself, a testament to its deeply introspective and private nature. The philosophical foundation of Meditations is Stoicism, a school of thought founded in Athens around 300 BC by Zeno of Citium. Stoicism emphasizes that while we cannot control external events, we can control our judgments and reactions to them. It teaches that virtue, wisdom, justice, courage, temperance is the sole good, and that living in accordance with reason and nature is the path to eudaimonia or human flourishing. For a Stoic, external things like wealth, health, reputation, or even life and death itself are indifferent. They are neither good nor bad in themselves, but simply material for us to exercise our virtue upon. Marcus Aurelius was particularly influenced by the teachings of Epictetus, a former slave who became a renowned Stoic philosopher. Epictetus's emphasis on the dichotomy of control, distinguishing what is within our power from what is not, forms the bedrock of many of Aurelius's reflections. Aurelius read Epictetus's discourses and found in them a powerful framework for navigating the moral and emotional challenges of his life. Unlike a novel, Meditations does not have a progressive plot. Instead, it is divided into 12 books, each a collection of loosely connected aphorisms, short essays, and personal reminders. There's no narrative arc where characters develop or events unfold in a sequence. Rather, the plot is the emperor's continuous internal dialogue. He constantly interrogates himself, reminds himself of Stoic principles, and analyzes his own judgments and actions. He often repeats themes across different books, not due to forgetfulness, but as a deliberate practice of reinforcing these ideas in his mind, much like a musician practices scales. His story is therefore one of sustained self-cultivation. Each entry in Meditations is a scene from his inner world, a moment where he applies philosophy to the immediate pressures of his life. For instance, one moment he might be contemplating the transient nature of power after witnessing the fall of a rival, and the next, he might be reminding himself to act justly towards a subordinate who has wronged him. It is this constant, practical application of philosophy that makes Meditations so compelling and timeless, offering not a tale of external adventure but a profound guide to the ultimate human adventure, building an unshakable inner self. The book begins with Marcus Aurelius expressing profound gratitude in Book 1, acknowledging all the people who influenced him, his ancestors, parents, teachers, and even the gods. This sets a tone of humility and recognition of external influences on his character. He thanks his grandfather for teaching him good morals, his father for modesty and manly character, and his mother for piety and generosity. He is grateful for his philosophical teachers who steered him toward Stoicism, and for his adoptive father, Emperor Antoninus Pius, who provided a model of calm, rational leadership and diligent devotion to duty. This section acts as a mental inventory of his support system and the virtues he inherited or learned. Throughout the subsequent books, Marcus then embarks on his daily spiritual exercises, addressing himself directly in the second person. You must do this, remember that. He doesn't recount specific events in detail, but uses the types of events he faced, dealings with difficult people, the prospect of death, the demands of public office as prompts for his philosophical reminders. The plot is his relentless effort to live each day virtuously, rationally, and with inner peace, constantly battling against his own human tendencies toward anger, fear, and self-pity, and striving to align his will with the rational order of the universe. Core narrative and analysis. The plot of Meditations is not a story you read, but a life you witness being lived from the inside out. It is Marcus Aurelius's continuous internal dialogue, his relentless spiritual exercises, and his unwavering commitment to Stoic principles. Let us trace this internal narrative through the key themes that define his quest for self-mastery and inner peace. The first and arguably most foundational principle in Aurelius's internal plot is the dichotomy of control. This idea, inherited largely from Epictetus, forms the bedrock of his psychological resilience. Marcus constantly reminds himself that some things are within his control and some are not. What is within his control? His judgments, his impulses, his desires, his aversions, and most importantly, his actions. What is not within his control? His body, his property, his reputation, the actions of others, and external events like war, plague, or death. Aurelius would mentally apply this to every challenge. When faced with the frustrating antics of courtiers or the insubordination of a general, he would not rage against their behavior, for that was outside his control. Instead, he would focus on his reaction. Does their behavior corrupt my judgment? Does it prevent me from acting justly? He understood that if he allowed external events or other people's actions to disturb his inner peace, he was essentially handing over his power to them. He would remind himself, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. This isn't passive acceptance, it's active mental discipline, like building an inner citadel, a fortress of the mind that no external force can penetrate. For instance, when leading troops in the brutal Marcomannic Wars, he could not control the weather, the enemy's numbers, or the outcome of every skirmish. What he could control was his courage in battle, his strategic decisions, his fair treatment of his soldiers, and his mental state. This constant internal reframing allowed him to remain steadfast amidst overwhelming pressure. Similarly, when the Antonine Plague swept through Rome, taking lives indiscriminately, he couldn't stop the disease. But he could control his judgment about it, not succumbing to panic, but focusing on his duty to organize relief efforts and to maintain his composure as an emperor. The second major theme in Aurelius's philosophical journey is the pursuit of virtue as the sole good. For Stoics, true happiness, eudaimonia, isn't found in external achievements, wealth, pleasure, or fame, but solely in living a virtuous life. These virtues are wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance or moderation. Marcus tirelessly strove to embody these in his thoughts and actions, recognizing that they were the only things truly good for his soul. He constantly reminded himself to act with justice in all his dealings, whether with his family, his advisors, or the vast empire he ruled. This meant treating everyone fairly, making decisions based on reason, and upholding the law. What is not good for the hive is not good for the bee, he wrote, emphasizing that individual well-being is intertwined with the common good. His internal narrative often involves reflecting on instances where he might have failed this, or how to better achieve it in the future. Wisdom for Aurelius meant understanding the nature of the universe, distinguishing truth from illusion, and applying reason to all situations. He continuously sought to deepen his understanding of Stoic physics and ethics, seeing it as the light that guides him. Courage was not just bravery in battle, but the fortitude to face adversity, pain, and death with equanimity, to stand firm in his principles even when unpopular. And temperance involved self-control over his desires, appetites, and passions, ensuring they did not sway him from his rational path. He saw virtue not as an abstract ideal, but as a daily practice, a constant wrestling match against temptation and weakness. This leads to the third pivotal aspect of his internal plot, acceptance of fate, Amor Fati. This is not a passive surrender, but an active, even joyful embrace of whatever happens, understanding it as part of a larger, rational, and providential cosmic order. Aurelius believed that the universe, governed by a divine reason, logos, or nature, orchestrates all events perfectly. Therefore, to resist what happens is to resist the very nature of reality. He wrote, "Do not seek for things to happen the way you want them to, rather wish that what happens happens the way it happens, then you will be happy." He frequently used metaphors to illustrate this. He imagined himself as an actor on a stage, playing a role assigned by the director nature. Whether the role was short or long, humble or grand, it was his duty to perform it well, not to complain about the script. When confronted with personal loss, such as the death of his children, he would turn to this principle, reminding himself that such events were part of the universal flow, and to lament them was to set himself against nature itself. This acceptance allowed him to find a profound sense of tranquility, even amidst deep sorrow. The fourth theme defining his mental journey is the cosmic perspective and social duty. Aurelius encouraged taking a view from above, imagining himself surveying the earth from a great height. From this vantage point, all human squabbles, ambitions, and sufferings appear tiny and insignificant in the grand scheme of the universe. This perspective fosters humility, detachment from petty concerns, and a profound sense of interconnectedness. He saw humanity as a single community, a cosmopolis of rational beings, all interconnected parts of the same cosmic body. This understanding underpins his deep sense of social duty. As emperor, he viewed his role not as a personal privilege, but as an obligation to serve this universal community. He constantly reminded himself of his responsibility to act justly, benevolently, and cooperatively towards all others, even those who might act foolishly or maliciously. For him, a rational human being must act for the common good, just as a hand or foot acts for the good of the whole body. Consider how this played out in his decision-making. Faced with various factions and conflicting interests within the Roman Senate or among his generals, he would attempt to rise above the personal squabbles, seeking the solution that best served the empire and, by extension, humanity as a whole, guided by reason and justice rather than personal bias or momentary anger. This view from above enabled him to maintain an objective and empathetic stance. Finally, a pervasive motif throughout meditations is the transience of all things and memento mori, remember death. Aurelius repeatedly contemplates the fleeting nature of life, fame, power, and even the physical world itself. He observes that cities crumble, empires fall, and even the greatest figures of the past are eventually forgotten. He asks, how many that were celebrated are already given to oblivion, and how many of those who have celebrated them are long ago dead? This is not a morbid preoccupation, but a powerful tool for philosophical detachment and purposeful living. By constantly reminding himself of his own mortality and the impermanence of all worldly possessions and reputations, he sought to detach himself from excessive attachment and anxiety about the future. It urged him to focus on the present moment, the only reality he truly possessed, and to act virtuously in it, as if each breath, each action might be his last. Confine yourself to the present, he advised himself. This constant contemplation of death served to sharpen his focus on living a life of meaning and virtue now, rather than postponing it for an uncertain future or striving for ephemeral glory. For example, when dealing with flatterers or critics, he would remind himself that both their praise and condemnation were transient and would be forgotten. This allowed him to remain indifferent to external opinions, focusing only on whether his actions were truly just and rational. When experiencing physical pain or illness, he would acknowledge its presence but remind himself that it too would pass, or that his mental resolve could remain undisturbed by it. This mental discipline, practiced daily through his writing, constituted the true plot of his life, an unwavering commitment to cultivating an unshakable inner core, a life lived in accordance with reason, virtue, and acceptance of the grand, cosmic design. Deep insight and reflection, Marcus Aurelius's Meditations offers far more than historical curiosity. It presents a timeless philosophical framework that continues to resonate profoundly in our modern world. Its insights are remarkably applicable to the challenges of contemporary life, from managing stress and anxiety to ethical leadership and personal growth. One of the most powerful modern applications is in resilience and stress management. The Stoic discipline of distinguishing between what is within our control and what is not, the dichotomy of control, is a cornerstone of modern cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. For example, when faced with an overwhelming workload at work or financial instability, Marcus would advise us not to rage against the external circumstances, the economy. The demands of the boss for these are largely beyond our direct control. Instead, he would urge us to focus on what we can control: our attitude, our effort, our planning, and our judgment of the situation. This shift in focus from uncontrollable problems to controllable responses empowers individuals to build mental fortitude and reduce feelings of helplessness. For instance, instead of panicking about a natural disaster, a Stoic approach would mean accepting the event and then channeling energy into organizing emergency supplies and helping others, focusing solely on the actions within one's power. The emphasis on mindfulness and present moment awareness in meditations also finds strong echoes in contemporary practices. In an age of constant distraction and future-oriented anxiety, Aurelius's repeated injunctions to confine yourself to the present and to do everything as if it were the last thing you were doing are profoundly relevant. This isn't about ignoring planning, but about fully engaging with the task at hand, bringing intention and virtue to each moment. For example, rather than being mentally consumed by past mistakes or future worries during a family dinner, a Stoic would strive to be fully present, appreciating the meal and the company. This cultivation of presence allows for a richer experience of life and lessens the impact of extraneous mental noise, akin to contemporary mindfulness meditation techniques. For ethical leadership, Marcus Aurelius's reflections provide a timeless guide. His constant emphasis on justice, duty, and acting for the common good, even at personal cost, serves as a powerful reminder for leaders in business, politics, and community organizations today. He understood that true leadership is about service, not self-aggrandizement. For instance, a modern CEO facing a difficult decision that could boost profits but harm employees would, through Aurelius's lens, prioritize justice and the well-being of the hive over individual gain. This framework encourages leaders to make decisions based on principle and long-term societal benefit rather than short-term expediency or popular opinion. Furthermore, his advice on navigating difficult interpersonal relationships is incredibly practical. Aurelius frequently grappled with the irrationality and malice of others. His counsel was not to respond with anger, but to understand that their wrongdoing stemmed from ignorance of what is truly good. He urged compassion and patience, and most importantly, a focus on his own virtuous response. For example, instead of reacting defensively to criticism, one could apply his wisdom by recognizing that the critic might be coming from a place of misunderstanding or their own pain, allowing for a more measured and empathetic response that protects one's own inner peace. This perspective allows individuals to manage their reactions to frustrating encounters without sacrificing their own moral integrity. Finally, the theme of acceptance and Amor Fati, love of fate, can profoundly alter our perspective on suffering and adversity. In a culture that often demands constant happiness and avoids pain, Aurelius teaches us to embrace all of life's experiences, both good and bad, as part of a rational, benevolent cosmic order. This doesn't mean passively enduring injustice, but rather transforming obstacles into opportunities for growth. For example, a person facing a career setback might not view it as a disaster, but as a fated challenge designed to teach resilience, provoke creativity, or redirect them to a more suitable path, thus actively loving their fate. This mindset fosters a deep sense of peace, knowing that everything ultimately serves a purpose in the grand scheme. As we reflect on Marcus Aurelius's profound journey, let's consider some questions for our own lives. The dichotomy of control. What aspects of your current life are causing you distress, and which of those are truly within your control? How might focusing solely on the controllable shift your emotional state? Virtue as guide. If virtue were your sole good, what daily decision would you make differently today? How can you actively practice justice, wisdom, courage, or temperance in a small way? Accepting fate. Think of a recent challenge you faced. How might embracing it as a necessary part of your journey rather than resisting it have changed your experience or outcome? Cosmic perspective. When overwhelmed by a personal problem, can you briefly step back and view it from a higher vantage point, considering its significance in the grand scheme of your life or the universe? Does this shift your priorities? Memento Mori and present living. If you truly believe today was your last day, how would you spend it? What actions would you prioritize? How can you bring that urgency and intentionality into your everyday life? Dealing with difficult people. Next time someone acts in a way that frustrates you, can you pause and consider that their actions might stem from ignorance or misguided perceptions rather than malice? How might this change your response? Inner Citadel. What practices or thoughts help you build and maintain your own inner citadel against the external storms of life? What are your most valuable inner resources? These questions are not meant to be answered lightly, but to serve as starting points for your own internal journey, much like Marcus Aurelius did with his meditations. Outro. Marcus Aurelius's Meditations is not a story of external triumphs, but a profound testament to the power of the human spirit to cultivate inner peace and virtue amidst unimaginable challenges. Its true plot is an eternal one, the ongoing quest for self-mastery, a rational mind, and a life lived in harmony with the universal order. He reminds us that true freedom comes not from controlling the world around us, but from mastering our own thoughts, judgments, and actions. His legacy is not just that of a powerful emperor, but of a philosopher-king who showed us that even in the highest office, the greatest battles are fought within. His words continue to resonate, offering us a blueprint for cultivating resilience, wisdom, and tranquility in our own lives, regardless of our circumstances. It is a powerful reminder that our inner world is the only true domain we can fully control, and it is there that our deepest peace resides. If Marcus Aurelius's internal journey has sparked your curiosity, there are many avenues to explore further. You might delve into the works of his Stoic predecessors, such as Epictetus's Discourses and Enchiridion, which directly influenced Aurelius and offer powerful, practical advice on the dichotomy of control and living with integrity. Or explore Seneca's Letters from a Stoic, which delve into topics like anger, grief, and the shortness of life with poignant eloquence. Beyond Stoicism, you could explore modern Stoicism, a contemporary movement that applies these ancient principles to modern psychological challenges, offering workshops and resources for building resilience. Or consider the deeper connections between ancient wisdom and contemporary practices like mindfulness and cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, which share many foundational principles with Stoicism in their approach to managing thoughts and emotions. What internal plot are you writing for yourself each day? How are you cultivating your own inner citadel? Remember, the journey towards a virtuous and tranquil life is a continuous practice, a lifelong meditation. May Marcus Aurelius's enduring wisdom empower you to live with greater purpose, peace, and resilience. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of the Emperor's profound path to inner peace. The Emperor's Battlefield Diary: How Marcus Aurelius Found Peace Amidst War. Hook and intro. Have you ever found yourself in a place of immense pressure where chaos reigns and the weight of the world seems to rest on your shoulders? Perhaps you faced personal tragedy, professional setbacks, or simply the relentless grind of modern life that leaves you feeling overwhelmed and adrift. How do you find your footing, maintain your composure, and not just survive, but truly thrive? When everything around you screams for your surrender, imagine for a moment being the most powerful man in the known world, the Roman emperor. The vast empire stretches before you, burdened by constant warfare on its frontiers, ravaged by devastating plagues, and riddled with political intrigue. You are not safe in a distant palace, but living in a military camp day in and day out, personally leading your legions into battle. The sounds of war are your lullaby, the sight of suffering your daily reality. Yet every single night after the battles, the decrees, and the endless demands of leadership, you find solace not in drink or entertainment, but in a simple act: writing. This is the extraordinary story of Marcus Aurelius, a philosopher-king, and his deeply personal reflections known as meditations. For nearly 2 millennia, this private diary, never intended for public eyes, has offered timeless wisdom on how to confront suffering, master oneself, and cultivate an unshakable inner peace, even when the external world is collapsing around you. Why did this powerful emperor, burdened by unprecedented challenges, choose to write these scattered thoughts to himself, often late into the night, amidst the mud and blood of a battlefield? What profound secrets did he uncover about enduring hardship, about finding strength not in conquest but in contemplation? And how did this seemingly simple act of putting pen to scroll become his most potent weapon against despair, transforming chaos into clarity? Today, we delve into the heart of Marcus Aurelius's extraordinary journey, exploring the historical context that shaped his philosophy, the core Stoic principles that guided him, and the practical methods he employed to achieve self-mastery. We will uncover the why behind his nightly ritual and decode his process for transforming suffering into a crucible for virtue. This isn't just ancient history, it's a blueprint for resilience, a guide for anyone seeking to build an inner citadel against the relentless storms of life, a sanctuary of strength that no external force can ever truly breach. By the end of this video, you will understand not just who Marcus Aurelius was, but how his enduring wisdom can empower you to face your own challenges with courage, reason, and profound inner peace. Context and background. To truly appreciate the genius of Marcus Aurelius and the profound wisdom contained within his meditations, we must first understand the man, his era, and the philosophy that became his bedrock. Marcus Aurelius was born in 121 AD and ruled as Roman emperor from 161 to 180 AD. This period, often considered the height of the Roman Empire, was paradoxically fraught with immense challenges that would test any leader's mettle to its absolute limit. His reign was dominated by almost constant warfare. From the east, the powerful Parthian Empire challenged Roman dominance, leading to protracted conflicts. But it was on the northern frontiers, along the Danube River, that Marcus faced his most grueling test: the Marcomannic Wars. Germanic tribes, pushed by other migrating peoples, repeatedly breached Roman borders, threatening the heart of the empire. Marcus, unlike many emperors who might have delegated such duties, personally led his armies, spending years on campaign in the harsh, unforgiving lands far from the comforts of Rome. As if ceaseless war wasn't enough, the empire was simultaneously struck by the devastating Antonine Plague, likely smallpox, which decimated the population, including the army, and brought widespread social and economic disruption. Marcus also endured significant personal losses, including the deaths of his co-emperor Lucius Verus and several of his own children. He carried the weight of the world, the survival of an empire, the health of its people, the safety of his soldiers, and the grief of a father, all on his shoulders. Amidst this relentless storm, Marcus Aurelius found his anchor in Stoic philosophy. Stoicism, an ancient Greek philosophy founded by Zeno of Citium around 300 BC, emphasizes virtue, reason, and living in accordance with nature. It taught that while external events are often beyond our control, our responses to these events, our judgments, desires, and actions, are entirely within our power. Key Stoic tenets that deeply influenced Marcus included the dichotomy of control, a concept heavily promoted by Epictetus, whose teachings Marcus greatly admired and often referenced. This principle urged individuals to distinguish clearly between what they could control, their internal world, and what they could not, external circumstances, other people's actions, even their own physical health or death. By focusing exclusively on the former, one could achieve a state of inner tranquility, known as apatheia, not as an absence of emotion, but as freedom from destructive passions. Another cornerstone was the belief in virtue as the sole good. For Stoics, true happiness or eudaimonia was not found in wealth, power, or pleasure, but in living a life of wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. These four cardinal virtues were seen as the only things truly good and impervious to the whims of fortune. A person could lose everything external, their family, their wealth, their empire, but if they retained their virtue, they would still possess the only true good. Marcus Aurelius' Meditations itself is a unique work. It is not a systematic philosophical treatise like those of Aristotle or Plato. Instead, it is a collection of personal notes, aphorisms, and reflections, a spiritual diary, or as some scholars like Pierre Hadot describe it, a series of spiritual exercises, ascesis. These were practices Marcus wrote to himself, designed to reinforce Stoic principles, to scrutinize his own thoughts and actions, and to prepare his mind for the challenges of the day or the introspection of the night. The fact that these were written during his military campaigns, often in the evenings in a tent amidst the sounds of war, speaks volumes about their purpose. They were a lifeline, a mental discipline, and a way for the emperor to maintain his inner integrity and composure when external circumstances were at their most chaotic and brutal. He was not writing to impress, but to survive, to govern himself, and thereby to govern his empire with reason and justice. This direct, unpolished, and intensely personal nature is precisely what gives Meditations its enduring power and relevance, allowing us a privileged glimpse into the mind of a leader striving for greatness not in power, but in character. Core narrative and analysis, the central enigma of Marcus Aurelius's life revolves around a profound question. Why did the most powerful man in the world, surrounded by the gravest threats to his empire and his life, choose to spend his precious nightly hours writing private philosophical notes to himself on a dusty, war-torn battlefield? The answer lies in understanding Meditations not as a book, but as a dynamic practice, a daily, vital ritual of self-mastery. Marcus Aurelius wrote because his philosophy was not an abstract academic pursuit, it was a practical toolkit for survival. He used his writing as a spiritual exercise, a term coined by scholar Pierre Hadot, meaning that philosophy was a way of life, a constant effort to transform oneself. Imagine going to the gym every day to build physical strength. Marcus's writing was his mental and moral gym. Every day, Marcus faced situations that could easily overwhelm an ordinary man. The immense pressure of commanding armies, the constant threat of enemy attack, the devastating Antonine Plague, the treachery of advisors, and profound personal grief. His writing served as a means to process these relentless challenges, to analyze his own reactions, and to constantly course-correct his inner compass towards Stoic virtue. It was a form of active mindfulness, an intentional engagement with his own thoughts and judgments. One of the primary reasons he wrote was to reinforce the dichotomy of control. This fundamental Stoic principle teaches us to distinguish rigidly between what is within our power, our thoughts, judgments, intentions, actions, and what is outside our power, external events, other people's opinions, health, death, reputation. The battlefield was a daily, brutal lesson in what was outside his control. He could not control the weather, the enemy's numbers, the loyalty of his soldiers, or the spread of the plague. But he could control how he responded to these uncontrollable elements. For example, when faced with an enemy skirmish that went poorly, he could not change the outcome. But he could control his judgment of that outcome. Was it a catastrophe or merely a setback, an opportunity to learn and adapt? His writing helped him to internalize this distinction, preventing his mind from being dragged into despair or futile anger over things he could not change. He would remind himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." His nightly reflections were also crucial for practicing acceptance of fate, or Amor Fati. This wasn't passive resignation, but an active embrace of reality. Marcus understood that the universe operates according to a rational order, a logos. Whatever happened, happened for a reason within this cosmic framework. To resist it was to resist nature itself, leading only to unnecessary suffering. By reflecting on the natural cycles of life, death, and change, he sought to align his will with the universal will. Imagine Marcus in his tent after a day of grim news from the front or word of another plague outbreak. He would write, contemplating the transience of all things. Everything is only for a day, both that which remembers and that which is remembered. This stark reminder of impermanence helped him to detach from the immediate pain, to see his losses and challenges within the grand, fleeting sweep of time. This perspective diminished the sting of suffering, transforming it from an unbearable burden into a natural, albeit painful, part of the cosmic dance. This leads us to how he primarily overcame suffering, through the power of perception and rational judgment. Marcus believed that suffering doesn't come from events themselves, but from our judgments about them. As he famously wrote or reminded himself, it is not events that disturb us, but rather our judgments about them. A lost battle, a loved one's death, a betrayal by an ally, these are external events. The suffering they cause is often amplified by our interpretation, our assigning of badness to them. His nightly writing was a disciplined effort to scrutinize these judgments. When anger flared, he would ask himself, is this person truly evil or merely ignorant of what is good? When fear gripped him, he would question, is this pain truly intolerable or is it my imagination adding to it? By dissecting his impressions with reason, he aimed to reshape his perceptions, disarming the emotional punch of adversity. This cognitive reframing is a foundational technique in modern therapy, showing the timeless practicality of his approach. The goal of this constant philosophical practice was to build what Marcus called the inner citadel. This is a powerful metaphor for the mind as an impregnable fortress, a sanctuary of reason and virtue that no external calamity, no war, no plague, no personal loss could ever truly breach. His writings were the daily construction and reinforcement of these walls. The stronger his inner citadel, the less vulnerable he became to the unpredictable assaults of fortune. For instance, consider his approach to physical pain and discomfort. Living on campaign meant enduring harsh weather, poor sanitation, and injuries. Marcus often reminded himself that pain is merely a sensation and that it is our mind's interpretation and resistance to it that transforms it into suffering. He would write about analyzing the pain, breaking it down into its constituent parts, refusing to add imagination to it, thereby denying it power over his rational faculty. He also used his writing to wrestle with the burden of leadership and duty. He felt the immense responsibility of his imperial role keenly. While he often expressed a desire for a simpler philosophical life, he viewed his position as a sacred duty, a part of the cosmic order. His reflections helped him reconcile his personal inclinations with his public obligations, reminding himself that what is good for the beehive is good for the bee. His duty to the empire and to humanity provided a higher purpose that helped him transcend personal suffering. Ultimately, Marcus Aurelius's nightly practice on the battlefield was his profound method for cultivating virtue. Each challenge, each setback, each act of injustice he observed or experienced became an opportunity to practice wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. The battlefield was not just a place of conflict, but a vast, brutal classroom where philosophy was put to its ultimate test. His writings were the homework, the daily commitment to embody the very ideals he espoused, ensuring that even amidst the greatest external chaos, his inner world remained a beacon of reason and peace. Deep insight and reflection, the enduring wisdom of Marcus Aurelius, born in the crucible of imperial power and battlefield hardship, transcends the ancient world and offers profound insights applicable to our modern lives, ethics, and societal challenges. His philosophical approach isn't just a historical curiosity, it's a practical manual for contemporary resilience. One of the most powerful connections lies in stress management and mental fortitude. In today's fast-paced, uncertain world, we are constantly bombarded by information, expectations, and challenges. Marcus's Stoic techniques, particularly the dichotomy of control and the power of perception, are foundational to modern cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. For example, when you feel overwhelmed by a looming deadline or a difficult conversation, applying Aurelius's wisdom means asking, what aspects of this situation are truly within my control? You can control your effort, your preparation, your attitude. You cannot control the outcome, your boss's reaction, or the market's whims. This simple act of reframing, as practiced nightly by the emperor, empowers you to shift your energy from futile worry to effective action. His emphasis on self-reflection and journaling resonates deeply with modern mindfulness practices and personal development. Just as Marcus used his meditations to examine his thoughts and correct his judgments, journaling today is a powerful tool for emotional regulation, clarifying values, and gaining perspective. Taking even 10 minutes a day to write down your thoughts, anxieties, and gratitudes can be a form of building your own inner citadel, a quiet space for processing the external world. For ethical leadership, Marcus Aurelius provides a timeless model. His struggle to balance personal philosophical ideals with the brutal demands of governing an empire at war highlights the immense responsibility of power. He constantly reminded himself of his duty to serve the common good, to act with justice, and to lead by example even when it was personally taxing. In an age where leaders are often scrutinized for their integrity and decision-making, Aurelius's commitment to virtue, self-mastery, and placing the welfare of others above self-interest offers invaluable guidance. Furthermore, Marcus's philosophy helps us navigate uncertainty and existential challenges. We live in a world where global crises, technological disruption, and environmental threats are constant. His acceptance of the transient nature of all things, his Amor Fati, and his counsel to find meaning in virtuous action, regardless of external outcomes, offer a robust framework for finding peace amidst unpredictability. This perspective encourages us to focus on the quality of our actions and the depth of our character, rather than becoming consumed by what we cannot predict or control. Now, let's turn to some points of debate and nuance in interpreting Marcus Aurelius's Stoicism. Some critics argue that Stoicism, as practiced by Aurelius, might lead to emotional suppression rather than healthy regulation. Was he advocating for a cold, unfeeling existence? A nuanced reading suggests otherwise. Marcus's writings reveal deep struggles with anger, grief, and frustration. His goal was not to eradicate these emotions, but to manage the destructive passions they could become through reason. It was about disciplining emotions, not denying them. For example, he mourned his lost children but used Stoic principles to find acceptance rather than succumbing to debilitating despair. Another point of contention is the balance between fatalism and agency. Does Amor Fati, the love of fate, mean we should passively accept all injustice and suffering? Absolutely not. Marcus constantly emphasizes the importance of acting virtuously and justly, of fulfilling one's duty to improve the world. His acceptance was not about inaction, but about not resisting what is, thereby preserving mental energy to act effectively where action is possible. He sought to change what he could and accept what he couldn't, a subtle but powerful distinction. Finally, there's the philosopher-king paradox. How could an emperor, wielding absolute power, ordering executions, and leading devastating wars, truly embody Stoic ideals of wisdom, justice, and inner peace? His writings reveal this internal tension. He wasn't perfect, he wrestled with anger and the imperfections of those around him. But his meditations stand as a testament to his earnest, lifelong struggle to apply these lofty ideals to the messy, often brutal realities of governance and power. His value lies not in his perfection, but in his relentless, documented pursuit of it. Let's pause and reflect with some questions for you. How do you currently distinguish between what is within your control and what is outside it in your daily life? Can you identify a recent challenging event and reflect on how your judgment of it might have contributed to your suffering? How might a daily practice of self-reflection, like Marcus Aurelius's journaling, help you manage stress or difficult emotions? What does acceptance of fate mean to you, and how can it be reconciled with taking action for positive change? In what ways can a cosmic perspective thinking about the vastness of time and space help diminish your current worries or anxieties? How can focusing on your inner citadel protect you from the external pressures and opinions of others? What Stoic virtue do you feel you need to cultivate most in your life right now, and why? How can the concept of duty, as understood by Marcus Aurelius, influence your approach to your work or community involvement? Outro. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor who wrote his Meditations on the battlefield, offers us a timeless blueprint for inner strength. His core message is clear: true power lies not in external authority but in the mastery of one's own mind and reactions. He taught us that suffering is often a product of our judgment and that through disciplined self-reflection, the distinction between what we can control and what we cannot, and a profound acceptance of fate, we can build an unshakable inner citadel against life's inevitable storms. His nightly practice, far from being a retreat from reality, was his ultimate weapon for engaging with it fully, virtuously, and with profound equanimity. In an age of increasing complexity and uncertainty, the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius remains a powerful, practical guide for anyone seeking to live a life of purpose, resilience, and inner peace. If you found inspiration in Marcus Aurelius's journey, you might also be interested in exploring other profound philosophical paths. Consider diving deeper into the works of Seneca's letters. Another eminent Roman Stoic, Seneca offers practical advice on coping with anger, grief, and the brevity of life, presented in a more accessible letter format. Epictetus's Discourses and Enchiridion. The former slave who became a celebrated Stoic teacher, Epictetus was a major influence on Marcus Aurelius. His teachings provide the foundational tenets of Stoicism in a direct, engaging style. Buddhism and mindfulness, many core principles of Stoicism, particularly focusing on the present moment, detaching from desire, and managing suffering through perception, find fascinating parallels in Buddhist philosophy and modern mindfulness practices. Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. This profound book by a Holocaust survivor explores how finding meaning in suffering can provide an unshakable will to live, echoing Marcus Aurelius's emphasis on reframing adversity for growth. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the mind of an emperor who discovered that true sovereignty lies not over an empire, but over oneself. May his wisdom illuminate your path and fortify your spirit. Until next time, keep seeking knowledge, keep questioning, and keep building your own inner citadel. Master your mind. Marcus Aurelius's 3 filters for unshakable mental strength. Hook and intro. Have you ever wondered what separates those who navigate life's storms with grace from those who are overwhelmed? What if the secret to enduring peace and unwavering resilience wasn't about changing the world around you, but about mastering the world within? Today, we embark on a profound journey into the mind of one of history's most remarkable figures, Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher. His timeless work, Meditations, offers not just philosophical wisdom but a practical blueprint for forging mental fortitude. In a world clamoring with external demands, endless distractions, and unpredictable challenges, it's easy to feel as though our inner peace is constantly under siege. We chase fleeting pleasures, dread future uncertainties, and lament past misfortunes, often feeling like passive recipients of whatever life throws our way. But what if there was a way to stand firm, unshaken by the winds of fate, to control your responses even when you cannot control the events themselves? Marcus Aurelius, who ruled the vast Roman Empire during a period of war, plague, and immense political pressure, found his answer in Stoicism. He discovered that true strength doesn't come from external power or material possessions, but from the rigorous cultivation of one's inner world. And at the heart of his philosophy lies a powerful yet surprisingly simple framework. 3 mental filters that, once understood and practiced, can transform your perception, guide your actions, and solidify your will. These aren't abstract concepts for armchair philosophers. They are actionable tools for anyone seeking to build a robust, unshakable mind in the face of life's inevitable chaos. Today, we will uncover these 3 filters: perception, action, and will. We'll explore how Marcus Aurelius used them not just as intellectual exercises, but as daily practices to maintain his equanimity as the most powerful man in the world. We'll delve into how these filters allow you to objectively assess situations, respond virtuously and effectively, and ultimately build an inner citadel that no external force can penetrate. This isn't just about ancient history, it's about unlocking your own potential for enduring peace and strength. By the end of this video, you will have a clear understanding of these profound Stoic principles and, more importantly, concrete ways to begin applying them in your own life right now. You'll learn why it's not the events themselves that disturb you, but your judgment about them and how to change those judgments. You'll discover how to transform obstacles into opportunities and how to cultivate an unwavering inner resolve that makes you truly free. So if you're ready to dive deep into the mind of a true philosopher-king and discover the ancient secrets to modern mental fortitude, stay with us. Context and background. To truly appreciate the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius, we must first understand the man and his world. Born in 121 AD, Marcus Aurelius was not merely a philosopher. He was the Roman emperor from 161 to 180 AD, ruling during one of the most tumultuous periods in the empire's history. His reign was characterized by relentless military campaigns along the Danube frontier, constant political intrigue, and the devastating Antonine Plague, which decimated populations across the empire. Imagine the immense pressure of governing such a vast and fragile empire while simultaneously grappling with personal loss and the existential questions of mortality. It was amidst this immense chaos and responsibility that Marcus Aurelius penned his Meditations. This wasn't a book intended for public consumption or a grand philosophical treatise. Instead, it was a personal journal, a collection of self-exhortations, aphorisms, and philosophical exercises, written primarily for himself. He often wrote late at night in his tent during military campaigns, using these reflections as a daily practice to maintain his composure, sharpen his judgment, and guide his actions. For Aurelius, philosophy was not an academic pursuit but a vital tool for living, a way of life. The philosophical bedrock of meditations is Stoicism, a Hellenistic school of thought founded by Zeno of Citium around 300 BC. Stoicism teaches that the path to eudaimonia, or human flourishing, lies in living in accordance with nature and reason. It emphasizes virtue, wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance as the sole good, and teaches that external factors like wealth, health, or reputation are indifferent to our true happiness and moral worth. Marcus Aurelius was deeply influenced by earlier Stoic thinkers, particularly Epictetus, a former slave whose teachings emphasized the crucial distinction between what is within our control and what is not. This core Stoic principle, known as the dichotomy of control, is perhaps the most foundational concept within meditations and underpins all three of Aurelius's mental filters. It states that some things are up to us, our judgments, impulses, desires, and actions, while others are not up to us, our body, property, reputation, and anything else that is beyond our direct command. By focusing our energy solely on what is within our power and accepting what is not with equanimity, we can achieve true freedom and inner peace. Scholars like Pierre Hadot have further illuminated meditations by interpreting it as a collection of spiritual exercises. These aren't passive readings, but active practices designed to transform the self. For Aurelius, philosophy was a constant, rigorous training regime for the mind, a daily struggle to align his inner world with the rational order of the cosmos. He wasn't presenting himself as a perfect sage, but as a student perpetually striving for improvement, continually examining his thoughts, refining his judgments, and correcting his actions. His writings grapple with profound philosophical questions that remain relevant today. What is the nature of true happiness? Is it an external achievement or an internal state? Aurelius firmly suggests the latter, achievable through virtue and right judgment. How can we reconcile the Stoic acceptance of fate with our personal freedom and responsibility? He resolves this by asserting that while external events may be fated, our response and assent to them are always freely chosen. What is our duty to society and humanity? Aurelius consistently emphasizes our rational nature, calls us to serve the collective, viewing ourselves as citizens of the world. Ultimately, Meditations is a testament to the enduring human quest for meaning and resilience in the face of mortality and suffering. It proposes a life guided by virtue, reason, and acceptance, not as a retreat from the world, but as a powerful engagement with it. This context sets the stage for understanding how his three mental filters, perception, action, and will, are not isolated concepts, but deeply intertwined practices aimed at cultivating a robust and tranquil mind capable of navigating any challenge. Core narrative and analysis now. Let's dive into the core of Marcus Aurelius's teachings, the three mental filters that equip us with unshakable mental strength. These filters, perception, action, and will, are not merely theoretical constructs. They are practical disciplines, intertwined and mutually reinforcing, designed to help you navigate life's complexities with wisdom and inner peace. Filter 1, perception, how you interpret events. The first and arguably most crucial filter is perception. Marcus Aurelius, echoing Epictetus, tirelessly reminds us, what troubles us are not the events themselves, but rather our own judgments about them. You think about that for a moment. It's not the flat tire on your way to work that ruins your day, it's your judgment that this flat tire is a catastrophe, a terrible inconvenience that always happens to you. The event itself is neutral, it's your subjective interpretation that imbues it with negativity and causes distress. This filter teaches us to identify and correct faulty judgments. Its key principle is that events are neutral. Our interpretation imbues them with good or bad qualities. The practical application is objective assessment, stripping situations of their subjective emotional coloring and viewing them dispassionately, distinguishing facts from opinions. For example, if someone insults you, the raw fact is that words were uttered. Your perception of those words as an attack on your worth is what causes anger or hurt. By reframing, you might perceive it as a reflection of their own character or ignorance, or simply as an external event not within your control and therefore not something that can truly harm your inner self. Marcus Aurelius urged himself to apply this filter constantly. He wrote, "Choose not to be harmed and you won't be, don't feel affected and you won't feel affected." This isn't a call to deny reality or suppress emotion. Rather, it's an active choice to control where you place your assent, your agreement to the initial impression. When an external event presents itself, your mind generates an impression. The Stoic discipline of perception is to pause, examine that impression, and ask, is this truly bad, or is it simply an event that I am choosing to label as bad? By doing so, you prevent rash emotional reactions from taking root. Consider a scenario where you face a professional setback, a project fails, or you don't get a promotion. Your initial perception might scream failure. I'm not good enough, my career is over. But the perception filter encourages you to strip it bare. A project did not meet its objectives. I was not selected for a new role. These are facts. The judgment of failure is your addition. By detaching from this judgment, you create space for a more rational assessment. What went wrong? What can be learned? What is the next logical step? This prevents paralysis and opens the door to constructive action. This principle is so powerful that it forms the foundation of modern psychological therapies like cognitive behavioral therapy or CBT. CBT teaches patients to identify and challenge their negative thought patterns and irrational beliefs, which are essentially flawed perceptions, to change their emotional and behavioral responses. Just like Aurelius, CBT helps us understand that our distress often comes from our thoughts about things, not the things themselves. By consciously filtering our perceptions, we take the first, most powerful step towards mental freedom. Filter 2, action, how you respond to events. The second filter is action. Once you've clarified your perception, the next step is to respond appropriately, virtuously, and effectively. Stoicism is not passive contemplation, it's an active engagement with life. Your actions are within your control, and they are the purest expression of your character. The key principle here is to align your actions with reason, virtue, and the common good. Aurelius constantly emphasized the importance of performing one's duties diligently, acting justly, showing kindness, and demonstrating resilience. He wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be one." This is a powerful call to embody philosophy, not just discuss it. When faced with a challenging task, the action filter prompts you to ask, what is my duty here? What is the rational, virtuous way to proceed? What action benefits myself and the community? One of the most profound insights regarding action is Aurelius's famous line, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This isn't a mere platitude, it's a profound reframing of obstacles. When you encounter a barrier to your progress, instead of viewing it as a roadblock, the action filter encourages you to see it as an opportunity. A difficult client becomes a chance to practice patience and communication. A project failure becomes a lesson in strategy and humility. The illness of a loved one becomes an opportunity to practice compassion and care. This reframe ensures that no external event can truly impede your intention or disposition. Your physical actions might be momentarily stalled, but your inner resolve to act virtuously can never be blocked. As the briefing notes, our actions may be impeded by them, but there can be no impeding our intentions or our dispositions, because we can accommodate and adapt. This is about cultivating a flexible yet steadfast mindset where challenges become the very material for exercising and strengthening your virtues. Consider a leader facing a crisis. They could panic, blame others, or retreat. But applying the action filter, informed by clear perception, they would instead focus on their duty. What is the most just decision? What actions will mitigate harm and serve the common good? How can I lead with courage and wisdom regardless of the outcome? This disciplined approach to action transforms potential chaos into an opportunity for demonstrating virtue and resilience, building trust, and inspiring others. The emphasis on present moment focus is also critical for action. Aurelius tells himself, "Do every action of your life as if it were your last." This isn't morbid fatalism, but a powerful reminder to bring full attention, purpose, and integrity to the task at hand. The past is gone, the future is uncertain, only the present moment offers the opportunity for virtuous action. By filtering your actions through the lens of purpose, duty, and virtue, you ensure that your behavior is always aligned with your highest self. Filter 3. Will your internal disposition and intention? The third filter and the ultimate stronghold of mental strength is will. This is your internal disposition, your intention, your fundamental choice to assent to reason and embrace what is. The will is the inner citadel that Marcus Aurelius refers to, an impregnable fortress within your mind that, once properly fortified, makes you impervious to external turmoil. This filter is about cultivating a robust inner self, independent of external validation or circumstances. The key principle here is self-mastery. Aurelius reminds us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. This is the core of the will filter. It's about recognizing that while you cannot control the winds of fate, you absolutely control the set of your sails. Your will dictates your assent to impressions, perception, and drives your purposeful responses, action. When your will is aligned with reason and virtue, you achieve an unwavering inner resolve. This filter also encompasses amor fati, love of fate, the radical acceptance of whatever happens as part of the rational cosmic order. This isn't passive resignation, but an active embrace of destiny, understanding that everything that happens is either meant for you or provides an opportunity for you to practice virtue. When your will accepts the uncontrollable, it frees up immense internal energy that would otherwise be wasted in futile resistance or complaint. The will is where your freedom truly resides. While you may be constrained physically or socially, your internal freedom to choose your attitude, your values, and your response remains untouched. As the briefing highlights, the first and greatest victory is to conquer yourself. This victory is achieved through the disciplined exercise of your will, your capacity to direct your thoughts, control your desires, and commit to virtuous living regardless of pleasure or pain, fame or obscurity. For example, imagine facing chronic pain or a difficult health diagnosis. Your body is suffering, an external event beyond your immediate control, but your will allows you to choose your attitude towards that suffering. You can lament, rage, or despair, becoming a victim. Or you can exercise your will to accept the reality, seek appropriate care, focus on what you can still do, and practice patience and courage. This internal choice, driven by a strong will, prevents the external suffering from conquering your inner peace. The three filters of perception, action, and will are deeply interconnected. Your perception of an event shapes your internal landscape. Your will then directs how you choose to act upon that perception. If your perception is clear and rational and your will is strong and aligned with virtue, your actions will be effective and contribute to your flourishing regardless of external outcomes. They form a continuous feedback loop. Clear perceptions lead to virtuous actions, which strengthen your will, further sharpening your perceptions. Deep insight and reflection, the enduring wisdom of Marcus Aurelius, channeled through these three mental filters, offers profound implications for our modern lives, touching upon our individual well-being, our ethical conduct, and our place in society. His insights are not confined to ancient Rome, they resonate deeply with contemporary challenges and therapeutic approaches. Firstly, in the realm of mental health and resilience, Aurelius is a silent guide for navigating anxiety, stress, and depression. His emphasis on controlling our judgments, perception, is a cornerstone of modern cognitive behavioral therapy (CBT). For instance, when individuals suffer from anxiety, their brain often makes predictive errors, perceiving threats where none exist. Aurelius would urge us to challenge these initial impressions, to strip them bare and ask, is this truly a threat? Or is it merely my judgment making it so? By practicing this, we can reframe negative thought patterns and prevent them from spiraling into overwhelming emotions. Consider someone struggling with public speaking anxiety. Their perception might be, everyone will judge me, I'll mess up, it'll be a disaster. This flawed perception triggers intense fear. Aurelius would teach them to filter this. I am about to speak. People will listen. My task is to deliver my message clearly. By focusing on the facts and their duty action and cultivating the will to speak courageously, they can manage the distress. This isn't about eliminating fear, but about preventing it from controlling their actions and inner state. Secondly, in leadership and personal development, Aurelius offers a timeless model for maintaining composure and integrity under pressure. Leaders are constantly bombarded with external events, market fluctuations, team conflicts, unexpected crises. The ability to apply the perception filter, objectively assessing the situation without panic, is paramount. Then the action filter guides them to make decisions based on reason and the common good, not short-term gain or fear. Finally, the will filter ensures they stand firm in their principles, leading with courage and consistency even when unpopular. This builds resilience not just for the individual, but for the entire organization they lead. Think of a CEO facing a difficult quarter. A poor earnings report might generate initial perceptions of failure and panic. A Stoic leader would filter this. The market reacted negatively, we did not meet targets. Facts, then there would direct their actions. My duty is to analyze, learn, and adapt. What are the rational steps to take? How can I support my team and navigate this with integrity? This disciplined approach, cultivated through the three filters, is what transforms challenges into opportunities for growth and demonstrates true leadership. Thirdly, the filters connect deeply to ethical living and social responsibility. Aurelius reminds us that we are all part of a larger, interconnected cosmos. What is not good for the hive is not good for the bee. Our actions, therefore, should always consider the common good. The perception filter helps us see others not as adversaries, but as fellow human beings, often acting out of ignorance rather than malice. This fosters compassion. The action filter prompts us to act justly and kindly towards others, fulfilling our social duties, and the will filter strengthens our commitment to these virtues even when it's difficult or inconvenient. Consider the divisive nature of online discourse today. It's easy to perceive differing opinions as personal attacks. Aurelius would urge us to filter this. This person has a different viewpoint. They are expressing it. This factual perception allows for a more rational action, perhaps engaging in respectful dialogue or simply disengaging if the conversation turns irrational rather than reacting with anger or hostility. Our will strengthens our resolve to remain rational and compassionate, preserving our inner peace despite external discord. Questions for reflection. The power of these filters lies in their consistent application. Marcus Aurelius's Meditations is a continuous dialogue with himself, asking probing questions. Now it's your turn. Perception. Think of a recent event that caused you distress. Can you strip away your initial judgment and describe the event purely in factual terms? Perception. What negative assumption are you making about a current challenge? How might an objective observer or Marcus Aurelius himself perceive this situation differently? Action. When facing a difficult task, what is the most virtuous action you can take, regardless of whether you feel like it? What is your duty in this moment? Action. Can you identify an impediment to action in your life that you could reframe as the way? How might this obstacle actually be guiding you to a new path or a stronger virtue? Will. Where in your life are you seeking control over external events that are truly beyond your power? How might redirecting that energy to your inner will free you? Will, what is one consistent daily practice you can adopt to strengthen your will, even in a small way, e.g., a moment of gratitude, a mindful pause? Integration. How do your current perceptions influence your actions, and how does the strength of your will determine your chosen response? Where can you create more alignment between these three filters? Outro. As we conclude our journey into the mind of Marcus Aurelius, we are left with a powerful, actionable understanding of mental fortitude. His meditations teach us that true strength doesn't come from avoiding life's storms, but from mastering our internal response to them. The three filters: perception, action, and will offer a comprehensive framework for cultivating this mastery. by learning to objectively perceive events, to act virtuously and purposefully, and to fortify our inner will, we can build an unshakable inner citadel, a source of enduring peace and resilience, no matter what external chaos may rage. Remember, it is not the world outside that defines you, but the world within. Your judgments, your choices, your intentions, these are your ultimate powers. Marcus Aurelius didn't just preach this philosophy, he lived it, leaving behind a testament to the profound potential of the human mind to find tranquility and purpose in even the most challenging circumstances. His personal reflections offer not a rigid dogma, but an invitation to an ongoing practice, a daily exercise in self-awareness and self-mastery. If you found this exploration inspiring, you might be interested in delving deeper into other related topics. We recommend exploring the full works of Epictetus and Seneca. These two foundational Stoics profoundly influenced Aurelius. Epictetus's discourses and Enchiridion delve deeper into the dichotomy of control, while Seneca's Letters from a Stoic offer practical advice on virtue and living well. Modern cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. Understanding the direct parallels between Stoic principles of perception and cognitive restructuring in CBT can provide a contemporary scientific lens on these ancient practices. The concept of Amor Fati, love of fate, this radical Stoic acceptance of destiny, eloquently explored by Aurelius, can be a powerful tool for finding peace in an unpredictable world. The nuances of Stoic apatheia, delving deeper into what the Stoics truly meant by freedom from disturbance and how it differs from emotional suppression, can further refine your understanding of emotional regulation. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the enduring wisdom of Marcus Aurelius. We hope his three filters perception, action, and will empower you to cultivate a mind that is truly strong, free, and at peace. May you find your own inner citadel, and may your life be guided by reason and virtue.